Hey everyone, welcome to another fantastic episode of Double Booked. And tonight, I am ridiculously excited to be joined by the author of Copper Skin, Oaken Lung, and the creator of The Old Town, and some of the strongest, most heartfelt characters I have ever gone through and read. Please welcome the one, the only, Mr. Adam Bassett. How are you doing today, Adam?
Hello, I'm doing great. I'm here. How
I
are you
know.
doing?
I'm doing a lot better than what I was last week, my friend. I really appreciate your flexibility with me because I had zero voice. It would have been you running the show and me just like giving a lot of thumbs up. It was so bad. It was so bad. So I appreciate your flexibility.
Yeah, of course, of course. I totally understand. Like when you're not feeling well, this is the last thing you want to be doing.
Exactly. Exactly. It was tough. It was tough, but I got a lot of reading done, so it was a blessing.
Mhm.
I do have some tea. That's what I'm drinking out of here. I mixed a few different teas together.
Me
There's honey in
too.
here too. So,
Nice.
so I'm gonna do my best, but there's a little cough that might come up occasionally. So if you see me just randomly stop talking and jump off screen, just know I'm not trying to be rude.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Do whatever you got to do.
All right, perfect. All right, so before we get started, I do want to go through and let everyone know that we are going to be going through and giving away a copy of this
We got a
fantastic book.
banner and
We
everything.
have Copper Skin Oaken Lungs. So it is signed. Oh, let me get to the signature. It is signed right here. And we got a fancy bookmark that I didn't realize we had until like about a week ago. So I didn't know it was snuck in there. So I was super
I yeah,
excited. So
I got it
snuck a little
hidden
treat in there
away.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, snuck a treat in yet. So I do have a few people that did go through and comment on the video from 2 weeks ago already on this Wheel of Destiny that I have here. But if anyone that's watching before the end of the live, if you want to enter into the giveaway, just put free in the comments. I'll go through and keep track and add you on here. And probably about the hour mark, we'll go through. We'll spin the wheel and see who is the lucky winner of this beautiful, amazing story. So to get people excited, Adam, do you have a quick elevator pitch for Copper Skin Oaken Lung you would like to tell the people?
I gotta figure that out still, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. Copper Skin Oaken Lungs is a short novel, post-apocalyptic fantasy that is from the perspective of a young girl who's spent her entire life in this remote town that has been completely isolated. As far as they're concerned, they may be the last people alive in the world. And it's a very cooperative community until suddenly it's not. And that's pretty much the story, is of them trying to navigate the neighborhood and this sort of like emerging dissent within it. And of course, where there is a magical apocalypse, inevitably we are going to explore that magical apocalypse.
Love it. It was so much fun. I was wrapped around this story's finger the whole time. I binged through it in just a few days. It was so engaging, and I do have some questions. We'll talk about it later on during our conversation. But I want to start out with your history up to this point.
Sure.
What got you into writing? What was that spark that made you go, "Hey, I want to go and do this writing thing as a career"?
Well, calling it a career at this point is very very confident. um I've always enjoyed writing. I got into reading as a young kid, and kind of just, it was the next step from that. I began writing, like, if we want to go all the way back, I began writing what was essentially fan fiction of the Warrior Cat series when I was about 10 or 11 years old. Um, and which, if you haven't read or seen it at all, think like Game of Thrones, but every character is a like feral cat, just like a house cat. It's both very approachable for kids, but also like it tackles some serious stuff. anyway, one thing leads to another, and I'm just getting more and more invested in the stories that I would like to tell. I bounced around for a long time. It took years for me to learn to stick with a project. And there was just a lot of like beating my head against a wall, because I really didn't have anybody close to me that I knew personally who also enjoyed writing or any of that stuff. So there was a lot of like time spent just trying to figure myself out and reading writing blogs, and eventually we kind of end up, fast forward several years, I really picked up and like got serious about publishing, in 20, I think it was 23. I went to Dragonsteel as part of a thing for work at the time, and just met some awesome people. And I was like, I want to come back here with my own work, and like be a part of this community, because I'd never had that really before. Because so much of my time spent writing and all these things, it was very solitary. It was like I was not on Book Talk or Book Twitter or any of these spaces where a lot of us find those social spaces. So I kind of discovered that all at once, and I really wanted to be a part of it. And I had been writing for so long, and I pivoted from one project I had been working on for years, which just wasn't clicking, over to what would become my short story collection, Digital Extremities, which is not working well in this light. And that came out in September 2024. A few months later, Animus Paradox came out. It was kind of like a sequel novel. And I've just been going since then with, Copper Skin Oaken Lungs is the latest one. I've got a nonfiction reference guide for other authors coming out later, I think this summer, which is going to be all about like creating maps for fiction and different things about our world and maps we build for it that we can learn from for that purpose. If you don't know, I, in addition to writing, have always been very obsessed with maps, and I made all my own maps like this one in Copper Skin Oaken Lungs. So that's just another passion of mine, and so that's in the works as well. And yeah, my plan is to just keep going, because I love being a part of this community so much. It's so fun. Like, I've always loved writing, and it's been so much more fun to share that with people and to see what other indie authors are writing and collaborate with indie bookstores and like all this awesome stuff that's been happening the past couple of years. I want to keep going. I want to see what happens.
So what do you enjoy most when it comes to writing? Is it the creative process? Is it the, hey, I finished with telling the story? Is it the editing, marketing side of the house? What's your favorite part?
It's really tough because like it sounds like a dumb answer, but I genuinely enjoy every part of it. Even the marketing part like can be really fun. I think genuinely the part that appeals to me most is probably the writing and the creation of the book. There's something about seeing something go from like a hastily written paragraph in my notes app to now this is a 300-page book and like it has art inside of it. And I've been able to work with some amazing editors and artists to help bring it to life in ways that like even I wasn't anticipating. Like my editors will sometimes suggest things that I wasn't anticipating, but really help flesh out a character. Or like the artist, like for Copper Skin Oaken Lungs, I'm sure we'll talk about it more later, but some of the inspiration originally for this book was a Latvian ethno pop group, music from them. And I wanted to, like, the story moves away. It's turned into something its own on its own, but it does take a lot of inspiration still from some of the language and the parts of the culture from Latvia, and like there's little bits and pieces that are sort of referencing the original song that inspired it. And so I got a cover designer who was part Latvian and was able to put some like Latvian symbols in the clothes of the characters, which like I didn't ask for, but they just like they took the prompt that I gave them and just elevated it so much. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. So yeah, it's tough to like nail anything down, but just like the whole process of like everything coming together is just so exciting.
It's awesome. So I do want to lean into the map. I had no idea you made the
Okay.
map. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
very intrigued. I think it looks really cool. And I know we both lifted it up at one point, but I'm going to lift it up again because it is so cool. I kind of want to hear a little bit about the creation of maps for you. Like, is you said you love doing this, you're creating something to help other authors go through and being able to do the same thing. I kind of want to hear about what what do you love about maps so much? Like, I know what I love about maps, and I'm curious for you as someone who goes through and creates it. What is your interest in going through and creating your own maps for your world?
I mean, I was the kid who at, I don't know, like 8 years old, if we were on vacation, my parents and I was the one who like found a map and was the navigator for my parents. And to an extent, I'm sure some of this is like, okay, kid, give us directions. But like sometimes we were in new places. Um, whether it's a real place or a fictional one, I just think maps are so interesting because they are informational tools first and
Mhm.
foremost. They communicate a message. But in addition to that, they are works of art. They have, aside from literal art in the margins, the way that they are illustrated tells part of the story. I mean, um, you can look through history at some of this too, like the I forget the exact name. It's like a tabula uh Romana or something, maybe. There's this ancient Roman map, and it's a road map of the Empire of Rome. And the geography is extremely wrong. It is warped to hell. It is just not accurate whatsoever. But if you measure the roads, just focus on the roads, those are extremely accurate. And I think that's a really good example of how like the map is concerned with one thing in particular, and the rest is like just make it look pretty. And that is less of a thing today with like satellite maps and
Mhm.
modern tools to measure distances and everything. But I still think like, that is also telling in its own way as well. Like today, modern maps value accuracy pretty much above anything else. We would like it to look nice, but that's kind of not a concern anymore. I mean, like I even in fiction you can show that too. Like we saw the map of from Copper Skin Oaken Lungs, which is like extremely illustrated and it's kind of like representative of what's there. Not necessarily to scale, but it gets the point across. In Animus Paradox, my cyberpunk thriller book, I also made the map for that, and it's just kind of a regular roadmap.
Mhm.
It's nothing too special, but like this is the kind of map that makes sense for this setting, for this place, the kind of thing these characters would be using. Same thing for I made maps for Finding Ramata, not my book, it's Robin Dabney. I actually just got this in the mail. It's very exciting. Um, I made a world map for her, which was kind of like supposed to be pretty typical fantasy world map. But then in this particular book, there's a big plot point of them climbing a mountain. And Robin was like, I just want a map that's a close up of the mountains. And we got to talking about it and what the story was about. And I was like, what if instead of that, we had a mountain trail map, which just shows the trail they take up the mountain? And I think, yeah, it's a lot of things. I'm kind of blabbering at this point, but the point
No,
is,
you're good.
like, it combines art and information in a way that's really exciting to me, and I love all the different ways that can be expressed. I mean, I don't have any here, but like, uh, stories that are based on piracy, they would have an entirely different map of like a nautical chart of the seas and stuff. And like, if there's a story of people chasing a celestial event, then you could have a map that shows the path of the eclipse across the world or something, or like, different things like that. I did a map. I don't have it here on hand, but I did a map for Darby Harn for his Dead Malls book, which is like a 80s horror book, and the whole thing takes place in a mall. So we were like, let's do a mall directory. Which was just like a super fun way to give people a reference that they can look at to see where the character is at different points in the story, but also just like, it's a piece of art in the book, which is just fun to look at.
That's too cool. That's too cool. Yeah, you put a little bit more thought into your maps. So, secret time between us friends. I go through and create maps just for fun. And what I normally do is I just I like doing world maps, is what I like doing. So I just go through and I just, like, without looking, I just make a design and I go, all right, that's the world. Now, what does that look like? And then I start just building it slowly, one area at a time.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done. And it's fun. It's relaxing.
There's something like meditative about it, I think.
It is very meditative. It's very, very like just relax, and knowing, for me at least, no one's going to see it but me. So it's like there's no pressure. It's just me just chilling and relaxing and just having a good time and going through and creating a world and then filling things into my goofy head as we go through from there. But I really enjoy your maps. I think they're so cool. And I like how you the examples you went through and showed, the climbing up the mountain. I think that's a fantastic idea. I love it. I think it's amazing. So, huge dork. We could spend the rest of the time talking about maps, but let's pivot back to your book, because I feel like that's only going to be me that cares, that's on right now. So let's lean back into your books. So I do want to go over one quick thing before I lean into your creative process, because I'm really interested about leaning closer into that when it comes to your writing. But from a hobby perspective, if you're not writing, if you're not creating maps, do you have any other hobbies that you feel help you during the writing process?
I mean, reading obviously is helpful for so many things, to just put my mind in a different space, to learn from other people who are writing. And it's just something I enjoy doing. And I'm trying to do more these past couple years. And aside from that, I have a kind of standing game night with some friends. And if we get a chance, we'll do like a kind of just hop on I think tomorrow we might be hopping on and playing some Marvel Rivals a little bit. And I occasionally take out the guitar or ukulele and play a little bit of that. Yeah, just like, and even just, I work from home right now, so just taking an hour or two to like go to the gym and just put my head in a new space and listen to a podcast or an audiobook or something, and just like, that is also very helpful as well. So yeah, little things like that.
Awesome. Yes. Knight, I cannot agree more. Tolkien has definitely made us all enjoyers of maps. Yes. When it comes to reading, what kind of books do you enjoy? I'm just curious. Do you like reading the same kind of books you like to write, or are you
Sometimes.
like, I like completely left field type of books compared to what you're
Yeah, no, I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy. I read a little bit of horror every now and then. I read a little bit of romance. Um, I really enjoy short story
Mhm.
collections, and like that was probably like a big point in my reading history, if you want to call it that, where like I really fell in love with short story collections that are all linked together in some way,
Mhm.
where like it's maybe not always the same protagonist, but the protagonists are related or they're in the same space or whatever it is. There's a lot of different versions of that. One of my favorites of that, I think I've actually got one of those here. Um, the Dew Breaker by Edwidge
Hmm.
Danticat. It is a fiction short story collection. It's not sci-fi or fantasy. It's just a bunch of people who are in or from Haiti, and all of them have some relation to this one family, and you kind of go backwards through time, seeing the family's daughter and then the father and then the mother and then like a family they knew and some people who were impacted by that family's actions, and then like it goes further and further back in time, and it just blew me away. Very, very cool story.
All right, it's on my list now that I'm gonna read this year. If I don't like
It's
it,
short. It's like uh 250 pages. Like you'll be
that's
fine.
perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. So my big thing, one of the things I'm trying to do this year is read um, from authors who are from places that I don't normally read from.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my big thing what I'm trying to do this year. And I can honestly say Haiti is not on my list of areas where I've read from that I'm familiar with. So that's going to get added to the list of this year because I want to expand my reading from the
Yeah.
places, because ends up being honestly about the same 4 or 5 locations that I realized when I kind of start thinking through it. I was like, oh, it's literally these 4 spots is where I read from. And I was like, there's a lot more out there
Yeah.
than this one area. So if you got
Yeah,
any more recommendations, just shoot them my way, man. I'm more than happy to go through that.
yeah, I will do that. I need to do more of that myself as well. But yeah, like you, I will sometimes just be like, "Oh, this person or this person is from this place that I have not read a lot of, or the story is based on that place."
Mhm.
Um, I'm not even gonna read the blurb. I'm just gonna pick it up.
Yep. Yep. Exact same thing. We got some friends that jumped in that I think I missed. Ke, how's it going, my dear friend?
Hello.
And then Sir Lucas Clay, Sir Lucas Clay. He told me I have to call him Sir now. um, so I do want to jump now into your creative process. I am really curious from how you go from you have a spark of an idea to your finished story. How does that process go through and look like for you when you're going through and have an idea? Do you go and plan? Are you just jumping right in, pantsing kind of person? I'm really curious on your your process.
Yeah, so it changes every story. I learn a little bit more about how I work and how I continue to work, like stay motivated through it. Um, each time, uh, I think like so for Copper Skin Oaken Lungs, um, this went through a very weird process because, like I said before, it was originally inspired by a particular piece of music. The
Mhm.
others were not inspired like that. Like a lot of the stories in uh, Digital Extremities were like exploring different parts of that near future cyberpunk world. And then Animus Paradox was like just a continuation of one of those stories. Um, with this, the world and the story sort of emerged around that song, which was Burman Laimi by Tautu Metas. And the I could go into it, but the short version is basically like, um, the song is sort of this chant, steeped in like Latvian folklore and tradition, with a lot of like modernizations, especially in the instrumentation. Um, and there's a lot of lyrics in there, which I thought, when the translated version, I thought that they really lended themselves very well to like a fantasy feeling. Like one of them, I might be misremembering this a little bit, but more or less, some of the lyrics were like, "I built, I you built a bridge of copper, and I built one of oak." And then something about the copper bridge rusting and the oak one blooming or something. Like it just like felt very druidic to me.
Mhm.
Um, and then like the music video comes out and it's of the band like dressed as fairies traveling through like a mystical wood, and it just it like oozed this kind of like fantasy vibe to me. And that's sort of where things began to diverge, was like I began sort of just asking, what if questions that continued to sort of veer me off that path. um and that sort of like the concept of bridges and what are they crossing, and um something about the mood of all of this really made me think of stories like Stephen King's Under the Dome,
Mhm.
or Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation.
Mhm.
And I think there's been like some video games that had a similar theme of like uh, a isolated town in the dark or something. And all of this sort of fed into itself, and it's one of those situations where like once you have a piece of the world, a piece of the story, you can sort of if then or uh use it to extrapolate basically the next piece. And that's kind of what happened with this. Was it sort of originated from this place that then began to expand a little bit uncontrollably, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I did not plan to write this at all, but it sort of just happened, and I couldn't, at a certain point I couldn't stop thinking about it. So writing it made me like able to it made me able to stop thinking about it for a little while until I had to write again. And it ended up in this like fever pitch where everything sort of came together, and I wrote the book in about just shy of a month.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, which it went through plenty of edits after
Mhm.
that. Like I wrote it in a month and it took me like 10 months to publish, just to give you an idea of how that timeline works. Um, Ed Crocker was a great help in sort of putting together like, the bones of this are good, but we're missing some scenes to help flesh out some characters. There's this, like Niklav's, for example, is a somewhat important
Mhm.
character sort of on the side. And he has sort of an important role in pushing the like Justina and the main characters onto like the next phase of the book. And we never really get a chance to meet him in the first version of this book. Ed was kind of the one who pushed me like he needs a scene. um and of course, like, uh a- through that process that all kind of comes together, sort of like what I was talking about before, with just
Mhm.
like, the pieces fit together, and the whole book takes form.
So I do want to go back to something you mentioned, and I'm really curious. So the inspiration to this fantastic story was a song
Mhm.
and music and the words and the the tone and the way the music flowed. It just stuck with you, and you just had to keep growing it, expanding it more and more. When you were spending that month of going in and telling this story, were you listening to music as you were going through, or did you just have the song in your head going and going like,
Yeah, I'm
Well,
listening to that playlist right now as we speak. I originally, so the song that I'm referencing, Burman Limey,
mhm,
it was originally a single, and then at some point during the writing of this book, it came out as part of an album, and I just
okay.
had that album on repeat. And as I began to get sick of hearing that on repeat, I then took like half of those songs, put them into a playlist of broadly Eastern European music from a whole bunch of different places. There's a lot of Latvian in there, but there's also a lot of Ukrainian and some Croatian and like different groups like that. All the just like kind of tied by like the vibe of how it feels. But yeah, no, music is, it's also, it's obviously hugely important to this book,
Mhm.
but like I just can't stand the silence. I like if basically every time anyone who knows me and my music listening habits, whenever the Spotify Wrapped stuff comes around, they're like, "All right, let's see it," and they post their like 50,000 minutes listened
Mhm.
post, and I'm over here with, "Oh, it's not 200,000 this year." A former coworker of mine once did the math, and they were like, throughout the entire year, you spent 1/3 of it listening to music.
Okay. Yep, see, mine is so small that I'm too embarrassed to even post it online. Of going like, everyone's posting their stuff, and I'm like, yeah, mine's not even close to any of y'all. So like, I feel like I listen to a lot of music, but for people who actually listen to music, I am a child trying to play with the adults.
Well,
Um,
part of the fun is not like, big numbers go up is great, but um part of the fun for me is just like seeing what other people are listening to and discovering new bands through it. I had a Portuguese coworker a few years ago, and he posted his, and I was just like, "Yes, let's go, some new people."
I can add new stuff in there.
Yeah,
So last question about the music. I'm just intrigued.
yeah.
I've talked to other people when it comes to music and they're playing as they're writing. Some of them can write when there is lyrics, and then I've talked to other people and they go, I can only have instrumental in here because if I start hearing words from the song, I start getting distracted and
Mhm.
start writing in that same kind of tone. Which side are you on? Are you a little bit of both?
Yeah, both for sure. More often, I can listen to music with lyrics. It typically doesn't bother me. Sometimes it does, and I just put on some soundtracks or something. But a lot of the time, I just sort of tune it out, and it's fine. It's more about like what sound do I want to hear, if anything. Like, do I want to listen to rock today? Do I want to listen to pop, or do I want to listen to ambient music, or that's my main concern, not lyrics or band or anything else.
Okay. So it's just genre based on, hey, this is what I'm feeling. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it takes a minute to find out what I'm feeling, but we get there in the end.
Yeah. Wrote it in a month, which is crazy because I talked to some people who take 15 years to go through and write one book, but you're just like, I got it in a month. So I'm
Well,
curious, what is your writing schedule?
Well,
What's
I'll
your
say it's only like 250 pages,
it's
and
still
the
it's
original version I think was closer to 180. I added
yeah.
a lot in editing.
Mhm.
It was in my head. It was originally going to be a novella. Um, that did not quite work. I ended up going a little bit over, and then I was like, "Well, I'm already over, so let's just keep going." It's my longest book to date. They're all pretty short. Um, but it ended up being for the best. I mean, as for my writing process, though, um, like I said, I couldn't stop thinking about this story in a way that did not necessarily happen previously. So it was basically just like every moment I had, I was working on it. I tried to make sure that I hit 5,000 words a week. And if I go over that, great. And I went over that a lot. That's what I like to do with my, like, when I'm in the writing, like, I'm not, and to be fair, I'm not always in the writing mode. I very often am not writing anything at all because I'm focused on uh illustrations or on marketing or on formatting or any number of things. I mean, the next book that I'm doing, the nonfiction one, has 130 images in it. I personally have made like 60 of them. And so there was a long period where I was working on the book, but I wasn't writing a single thing. Um, and of course, I have to end up formatting my books afterwards, and that can take some time. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, which is not even remotely related to writing. But when I am writing, I try to do 5,000 words a week. If I go above, great. If I go below, unfortunate, but no big deal. Currently, I'm in a space in my life where I work remote and I am living alone and I have a lot of free time available. So when I really put my mind to it and like I make this the priority, I can regularly hit that goal and more. It's just a matter of like how I choose to spend those hours.
Awesome. That's crazy. 5,000 a week. That's a lot, but that's awesome. That's a great goal, and that keeps you trucking along.
Yeah, and I find it's much more flexible than like some people have daily goals, for example, and like that's just unreasonable. Like even with my extremely flexible schedule, I can't hit a set goal per day. Like that's just not going to happen. I think in general, authors need to be kinder to themselves with their writing goals. Like set something that is achievable and go beyond it if you can. And if not, don't worry about it. There's another day, there's another week. Like that was a big hurdle for me, learning my own process of like, there's so much writing advice out there, which is like, you need to be writing every day. You need to be writing this much every day. It's like, that's all kind of bullshit. Like, what you need to be writing per day is based on your schedule, what your time available is, your work ethic. Like that's going to change for everybody. And for me, the 5,000 a week goal when I'm serious about writing is great. When I'm not serious about writing, I have no goals. I don't care. Just I'd like to get something done. And sometimes that something is like making a graphic for Instagram.
Nice. All right. I want to lean in now to your book, and I'm going to be very transparent with you up front. Anyone that's seen me talk about books realize that I cannot pronounce anything correctly ever. I'm so bad at it. It's why I'm a fan of audiobooks, because I can go through like, oh, that's how you say this person's name. You have so many names that I cannot pronounce in this book. So I'm going to do my best to ask questions that I truly have about this book.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to try to have you just tell me what the names are. And
there
I'm going
is
to
a pronunciation guide.
I can't read that either. Like I read all the time and I still can't read some of this stuff. To be very honest.
Yeah,
And it's not yours. It's across the board. I do the same thing. It's something as easy as Keanu. I kept calling it Keanu during the interview with the author. It was very embarrassing. It is what it is. I've accepted it that I'm just not good with names. It's just not my forte. So I want to go through and talk about this fantastic story. We've talked about already the inspiration, which I think it's crazy. And I need to go through it, and you need to send me the name of that album because I do want to go through and listen to it. It sounds very cool. I tried to write it down, but I know I misspelled it.
Should I just put it in chat?
Yeah, if you have, that'd be fantastic. Yeah.
My YouTube account is not connected to this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let
me see if I can pull up.
Yeah. Let me know and I'll toss it in and I'll share it with the world. So I want to lean into what is the name of the threat? The help you.
The Malconus.
Malconus. Thank you. See, I was going to say Malconese is what I was going to say, but I knew was wrong. The Malconus. Where did that idea come from for these, this threat within this book? Because I really was interested. They were very intriguing. And I'm just curious from how you came up with the Malcones. Got it.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said before, the ideas that kind of coalesced into what is this story, a piece of that was like the isolated town, the
Mm,
sort of liminal magical space of something like Area X in Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer,
mm,
and the idea of being restricted from going into it by, like, a dome, like Under the Dome, Stephen King.
mhm.
So I'm tossing the music video into chat just for convenience.
Awesome.
So those things were kind of informing what was in my head at the time. The Malconis is sort of what emerged from that. And it was designed in such a way to be ominous, but not frightening. I really wanted to toe a line between, like, the thing that is frightening and scary. Yes, it's to be, you should concern yourself with it,
Mhm,
but it's also, like, not inherently evil. It's not inherently out to get you necessarily. It's just sort of a thing that you have to deal with. And the idea of the Malconis being this, like, dark, misty, cloud-like thing that is surrounding you, that was easy to communicate.
mhm.
And I was able to, and it also felt unnatural, which is like the perfect combination of what I was going for. Was like, I didn't want people to spend a lot of time, like, trying to understand it, trying to visualize it. Um, the thing I wanted them to feel was, like, unsettled and uh, uncertain of what it could do. Um, so that's sort of how all that came together. Was like, it was this neat combination of all those ideas.
So Justine and Anna.
Justina and Anna.
Yes. See, I told you I can't say name.
It is tricky because it's all rooted in that Latvian language, and some letters are not pronounced the way we do in English.
Yes.
So I learned from the audiobook as well. There is an audiobook. It's available on Spotify right now. It's coming out to other platforms, but it's a very slow rollout because of the way that works. I got somebody who is fluent in a couple of Eastern European languages. And she actually taught me a couple of pronunciations as she was going through and doing demos and stuff for the book. So yeah, I'm a little bit right there with you of, like, I have had to train myself to say these names and terms correctly.
So going to Justine,
It's like a Y. Justina.
Justina and Anna. Let's go back to them. What made you decide to emotionally center? I think that's the word I want to use. Emotionally center the story with these two sisters.
That's partially a callback to the original inspiration of the music.
Okay.
Because the group who sings the song this was originally based on, they're all women. So the idea of siblings that were all very close working together was important for me. Actually, it was going to be a brother and sister originally, but two sisters worked a lot better in terms of, like, the original inspiration. All the band members are women, but also the narrator I found was a woman. So instead of making her, like, do a male voice as the main character throughout the whole thing, I was like, I'll just gender swap it. It's fine. So, and it changed, like, nothing about the story. So I'm like, yeah, this is whatever. So yeah, that was just kind of like a thing of convenience, where it was like, sibling, like the sibling relationship was always important. And then once I found the narrator that would work for this story, I made that adjustment.
Okay.
Also, just like for the story to happen, there is that point which I don't want to reveal too much about because spoilers, but you're aware there's a point about halfway through where things kind of change and the stakes are raised, and the main characters make a decision to go into a place that is unsafe to save themselves from something else. They, I think, as adults, would not make that choice. They would be too afraid of the Malkonis to go anywhere near it. And so they kind of had to be kids. They had to be young in order to make these mistakes, in order to test their limits. Because I just couldn't see like a 30, 40-year-old doing that.
Yeah, I would be very suspicious if they were older in the story. I agree. There's something I really did enjoy a lot about this book was the way you went through and decided, hey, I'm going to show the day-to-day life in this. You went through and showed the characters, how they were surviving, the farming, the gardening, the guarding, the perimeter. It all felt grounded and it felt real. And I really do appreciate how you went through and did that in this. How important was it for you to go through and show like real life and not just jumping into like, all right, this is just a post-apocalyptic fantasy where things are chaotic from the second you open it up, but you started very grounded and then started elevating pretty quickly.
Yeah, I knew that I was going to tear everything away from these characters. So I really wanted to make it feel like there was something to take away. It was important to me that things weren't always chaotic because these characters grew up in a pretty peaceful time, all things considered. And I wanted to show that. I wanted to show that they were a little bit adventurous before they had to be adventurous. I wanted to show that they were like valuable members of the community, helping their neighbors in all kinds of different ways. So yeah, there were a lot of reasons for it, and it was very important to me, like from the beginning, that things started almost a little bit cozy, so that when the plot twist, the action really ramped up, it felt like, you know, you were losing some kind of safety, some kind of stability along with the characters. And also, like, with the book being as short as it is, and in a secondary world that I have to introduce people to, I think all of the things that happen in that first part where we are in that like day-to-day space, you know, the dinners, the training session, the adventure on the wall, like these are all really informative things. Like they're picked on purpose to be very informative about how does this town and the people here feel about all these activities, about all of these things that the sisters are doing. So yes, it's like very day to day, but all of those things that we're showing are very relevant to what will happen or what we will lose based on what will happen.
Okay. I did appreciate you adding in a glossary and cultural information. You know, I still can't read very well, and I just say things incorrectly. I am curious. So you've kind of glimpsed over at certain parts of this conversation how you tried to pull in some inspiration, but I'm really curious if you want to dive a little bit deeper into the inspiration that built this culture and built the language and built this town's traditions, and how were you able to go through and build that all together? I'm curious about your inspiration. What was yours? What was inspired by other cultures? Kind of want to hear how that was built out for you.
Yeah, so a lot of it is like, what does it look like to live in the last town surrounded by a magical entity that will kill us if we go near it, and we don't understand. Um, Especially the way that like it surrounds the town and like obscures the sun, and so the it affects the way that they perceive the times of day, and that's a big part of the language in the story. Is like, now we are at first dim, and it's not first light because there's not a lot of light. It's very like the sun is very weak, so it's first dim and I'm doing this thing at the farm. It's midday and I'm having repak dao, which is like our uh, noontime meal and prayer all in one. And of course, like in a post-apocalyptic world, I imagine that religion and prayer is an extremely important factor. So that becomes a big part of the things that the characters are doing, and sometimes eagerly, like I need help in this moment, and sometimes uh thinking about ignoring it altogether because it's like things are so dour, things are not going to get better if I stop and pray right now. Like, there's kind of that constant conversation going on as well. The language itself, a lot of it is rooted in or is just Latvian. I found a couple of different translators and like cross referenced them to get as accurate as I could. And there are others that are like the times of day, like I mentioned Repak Dao. Is sort of a blend of the Latvian word for, I think it was noon, mixed with a one of the phases of the day from, I think it was the medieval hours, like the vespers and all of those, like the church time. I forget the exact terminology, but there were like
Mhm.
7 hours of the day. It was like vespers and supper and all those different points of the day where like you would be working during this hour, you would be going to church in this hour, you would be uh, having supper in this hour, and so on. Um, and it was just a neat way for me to sort of blend, like I said, those
Mhm.
concepts of religion and the way that time is interpreted in this world, and just a shorthand for like helping the reader see the passage of time as we get through the story, because a lot of it, each uh part one takes place over a couple of maybe 2 days. Parts two, three, and four all take place over the course of like 24 hours. So
Mhm.
like it was partly a way to communicate to the reader where we are at in the day, in the passage of time.
So, what do you hopes now that the book is out in the world? What do you hope readers feel or maybe reconsider after they go through and finish your book?
I mean, I just hope they feel anything. the worst the worst thing would be if they put the book down after reading it and they're like, okay. um I mean, it's their book at this point. It's not mine anymore. I I'm very conscious of the fact, like, no matter what I do, people will interpret it in whatever way they choose. So far, I've been very pleased. Reviews have been generally positive. People have talked about some of the themes that I've put in here, like, the scary thing in the dark is scary, but it's not necessarily always trying to kill you. Um, and the people in the light, they're generally helpful, but push comes to shove, and sometimes they're not so helpful anymore.
Mhm.
It's a lot of the story is about what fear drives us to do. All the terrible things that happen in this book is because someone got really scared and lashed out. And unfortunately, that has become very relevant to today. And I've had a couple of readers make that connection. And I'm like, yeah, that wasn't my intention writing it, but oops, here we are. So yeah, I mean, people can take away from it whatever they want. I'm open to all the interpretations. I love to see them. There are definitely some things that I went into this book planning to do and hoping they would take away, and a lot of those have I've seen, but we'll see what they say as the book continues to live on in their space. And in the meantime, I'm working on book 2 and I'm having a good time. And I've spoken with 1 or 2 people about it already, and they seem excited about it. So, fingers crossed.
Awesome. How many books you planning on for this series?
So this was going to be a standalone novella. Not a novella, and there's a 1 on the spine. So nothing has gone according to plan, is what I'm saying. There is going to be a book 2. I'm working on it right now. It is probably going to be the end. We will see. There's a little part in the back of my mind. I'm like, I could do a book 3. Like, there is a space where I can see it happening, but it's also like, I don't want to write a book that doesn't need to exist. Like, I would rather spend my time writing something that I'm enjoying versus like, if this book does really well and book 2 does really well, I don't want to just write a book 3 to write a book 3, like that's boring as much as it's probably the right decision.
Awesome. We'll see. I feel like there's probably going to be a book 3. To be honest, how this book started going, I think it's going to be a baby.
I will say,
like, just a little tiny short story that turned into this beautiful masterpiece.
I will say, this series I don't think is going to be quite what people are expecting. Book 2 is much different already, and I'm very early in the first draft, so don't take this with like a lot of salt, actually. But book 2 is a lot different, and it's following some different people, and it's expanding the world in some ways that I don't think anyone is anticipating. And yeah, that's really kind of a lot of the point of it, is like, it's bringing up it's bringing into conversation things that are really interesting about the world that I think people are going to enjoy. And if there's a new space for me to venture into that makes sense in a similar way, I'll do that with a book 3.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited. To see what's going to come next. So I feel like we are at the time where we need to do the Wheel of Destiny. I feel like it's Wheel of Destiny time.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see who's going to win a copy of this beautiful book. So let me go through and share my screen real quick. Let me make sure I'm doing this correctly.
Any last minute entrants, toss, I think, free into the chat.
Free. All you got to do is type in free and I'll add you on.
We're talking about a book giveaway, by the way, in case that wasn't clear. I realized we did not say what we were talking about.
All right, we got the Wheel of Destiny. All right, I'm going to make sure I didn't miss anyone most recent. All right, here we go. We're going to spin the wheel. Let's see who. It looks like it's our friend Josephine won. I know she's not on. She is out west, but I will shoot you a message, Josephine, or if you watch this on the recap. She usually watches on the recap. So congratulations, Josephine, on winning this fantastic book. I know she's going to love it. Let's zoom back in. Oh, there we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josephine. I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, she's going to love it. It is definitely going to be right up her alley. She is fantastic. So Awesome. All right. I want to jump in now to one of my favorite sections of these conversations. If you had all the money and the power in the world to do whatever you want with this story, would you want this to be a adapted into a different type of medium? If so, what are you thinking? Are you thinking like a series, a film, a graphic novel, a video game, even anime? It could be across the board. Just
Yeah,
curious.
I think an animated film would be really fun. Just because you'd have so much freedom to do some really fun visuals with the Malkonis and with the character in part 3 and 4, which you and I know about.
Mhm.
um Sorry, spoilers, everybody. It's a really cool sentiment once you read the book.
Mhm. Mhm.
um yeah, it's I think that would probably be the way to go. I think live action would also be fine, but it would just be expensive um to create the setting, and I mean, I don't know, maybe not that bad. You just get like a medieval town setting and you do some visual effects in the background for the most part. Um yeah, I don't know who would be in it. I don't know who actors are, but that's someone else's job.
Yeah. You could pay someone to go through and find the right people. You could
Yeah,
find,
yeah.
yeah, but that'd be cool. That'd be cool. I think it would be, oh man. I was getting ready to spoil something. Never mind. We're gonna switch to something else. I almost said something of like this scene would be really cool. So nope, we're gonna pivot and we're gonna go to my next my next question. Um, for you as a writer, because you've been writing now, you said since I apologize, I gotta go back and look at my notes. For a few years now. This is book 3. You're working on book 4 of your nonfiction, and technically book 5 because you got book 2 of this one coming out as well. So you're
Yes.
working on 2.
4 is
Right.
in formatting stage, and 5 is in the early first draft stage.
Mhm. So at this part of your career, because I feel like you're still in the very, very beginning stages of your writing career. You got a long, very successful career ahead of you. What for you, what does success look like? Because I feel like that looks different for every single author I've gone
Mhm.
through and talked with. What does success look like for you as an author?
Um, I think there are kind of 2 answers to this for me.
Mhm.
Um, One is like what feels like success, and the other I think is a business, like financial question.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, if I'm always losing money on these things, which has been the case so far, uh, how long can you do it for?
Yeah.
It's really dependent on my other job, and my other things that are going on in my life, which we don't need to get into that right now, but not excellent right now, going through some changes. Like to the extent where I if I were not in this position, I would be pretty confident about giving a timeline for my upcoming books. Right now, I can't do that.
Mhm.
Um, so the business side of it is like I'd like to break even. Like at
Mhm.
that point when I'm no longer losing money on books, um, that is a point where it's like, okay, there's enough momentum here that I can continue doing this. Not that I'm planning on stopping anytime soon, but it's so much more at the whims of other things that are going on in my life.
Yeah.
Um, as for the non-financial side of it,
Mhm.
I feel successful anytime somebody is talking about my work without me prompting it. It is the hardest thing. Like everybody tells you marketing is the hardest. The hardest thing that is, I think, really the biggest challenge is to have people talk about you. Because I talked with you about hopping on this show. I talked with the host of On Wednesdays We Read, about hopping on their podcast. There's people who I can reach out to and be like, hey, do you have a spot coming up available that we could jump on and chat about my stories and whatever? And I've been extremely fortunate in that a lot of folks are very generous with their time, and a lot of the times they say yes. People in this community like to help each other out, and that's one of the awesome parts about it. But when you are like, you're just hanging out on Instagram or wherever, and you just find out somebody's been talking about your work without any prompting, without anything, somebody just asked them about what they're reading or what they enjoy reading or whatever, and they just like, oh yeah, Adam's book is really good. And I'm just like, oh, like, this is like, you're not just doing this to help me out in the moment that the book is releasing or whatever. Like, you enjoyed my work enough to remember it. And for people who sometimes read like 200 books a year, that is incredible if anyone remembers you. So yeah, those are the moments when I feel like I have found some level of success, is anyone just like knowing I exist outside of these planned events, you know?
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know that's so exciting. I'm just like doom scrolling and going through, and then just finds out just randomly someone going like, this book's fantastic, you need to go through and read, and you're like, what? Me?
Yeah.
I did
earlier today, I got tagged on a Threads post. Somebody had bought my book, and they were just sharing that it had come in the mail. I was just like, oh, I had no idea. Like, I've seen them around. I knew them a little bit, but like, I wouldn't call them a close friend or anything, or anybody that I expected to get the book. It was just like, oh, this is so nice of you. Thank you. And they were talking about like, yeah, I'm waiting for a full day off of work so that I can sit down and just read this and do nothing else. I'm just like,
that's awesome. That's so exciting. I bet that is.
It happens very rarely, but it has happened a couple of times, and it's amazing.
It's such a good feeling to be like, I'm ready to take time off of work and getting paid to experience.
Well, I think they were just talking about having a weekend, but,
yeah, but even then, they could do anything in the whole world.
Yeah.
And they're choosing of like, I want to spend my time reading something you created. So
yeah, that was a big point. That was part of a similar point that was really pressed in. I don't know if you've seen it, but Herman Steuernagel has a new like season of his podcast, which is like very focused on successful authors. You know, and there's so many different metrics for that, but people who have found some level of success, talking about how they achieved that, the steps they took, and whatever. And he was talking with Zias Diamante, and a big point of their discussion was like, nobody knows you exist, and you need to know that. You need to reckon with it. You need to find a way to make them know you exist. And I still don't totally know how to do that. I think all of us are still figuring it out, especially as we are so reliant on social media, algorithms constantly changing, platforms constantly changing, things coming into and falling out of favor. You know, do you follow the trend? Do you go against the trend? How much time do you spend on these things? What skills do you have that you can apply to this? And what skills do you need to learn to apply to this? And how much time do you take away from your writing for all that? Like, it is a constant battle. And yeah, that's one thing for me that's really stuck with me. I think like for the past, like right before I published Digital Extremities in 2024, that was the thing I was trying to fix, was like, I need to exist in this bookish space before I start publishing. And that's part of how I started writing book reviews and working with a small team on that. And I would reach out to other authors and be like, hey, you just had this really cool release. what did you do? What would you change? What would you do again? Like I had those conversations with folks like Adrian M. Gibson, who wrote
Mhm.
Mushroom Blues, and he's an extremely kind person.
Mhm.
He hopped on a call with me for like 40 minutes and just like hung out and talked while he like fed his son. I was like, I'm so sorry. He's like, no, it's all good. So yeah, this is an extremely long answer, but like that's success. Is like there's a financial component to it, which is important, and there's also like this social component, which is important, and it's the two intermingle a lot.
And that's one of my favorite things. Adrian's fantastic. I've had him on multiple times. Um, Such a genuine nice person is what I really enjoy about Adrian. And I think that's what I really love about this space is there's not a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of let me share what I know and then
Mhm.
maybe we can both figure it out together type of thing rather than it being like, hey, can you help me try to understand what you did? And people going, no, I figured out on my own, you figure out on your own. It's not like that.
Yeah, that was something I had to learn too. I talk about Digital Extremities being my first book. About 8 years before that, I published a different book through what was a hybrid press. And that was my real debut. It had a certain amount of success, but it came with a lot of problems as well, and a lot of those were rooted in the fact that I wasn't a part of the community and I didn't know what I needed to do, and
Mhm.
I didn't know how to market. I wasn't making enough money to just throw money at the problem. Um, and I had done like no market research and all those things that are like important to, books are art, but they're also a product, and they are
Mhm.
also something that you have to be able to sell. And I really couldn't do that. And I did think of other authors as my competition, but in the years since then, I've come to think of it more as like, no, the competition is something like Amazon and trad publishing.
Mhm.
We are all working together to help readers realize that independently published indie presses, like all these smaller options exist, because so many, like I was talking with my family a little while back, and one of them asked me, what is indie? What kind of genre is that? I'm like, well, there's a couple problems with that question. It's not a genre. Like, they don't all, it's not like horror, it's not like romance. Um it's where it's published. And they understood once I said it, but just the thought had never occurred to them because they never thought about indie books, and they didn't understand really what it was that I was talking about. And there's so many people out there who are like that, who get sort of the stuff that they're handed to by the big five publishers or their
Mhm.
imprints, and they don't think about anything else. There's that, it doesn't cross their mind. um so yeah, I mean, that's how I've, like, it took me a while to get there, to sort of make those realizations. It would have taken me much less time if I was already in the community and talking with people about it, but eventually I did get there.
Well, that's awesome. I feel like that's a perfect place to stop. This was such a great conversation, Adam. I had too much fun. Time flew by.
Mhm.
Um, Thank you so much, everyone that was in the chat. I really appreciate you jumping on and talking with us, Adam.
Yeah, thank
For
you for having me
those
here.
um, for those trying to go through and connect with you, what's the best way for the people to keep in contact with you, go through and check out your books, and love to for them to be able to connect with you?
Yeah, so the best way to stay up to date with what's going on with me is my monthly newsletter, roughly monthly. Um, it is on my website, adamcbassett.com. And that's where I share all the updates that are happening with what I'm doing. And then there's also going to be some like roundup of book reviews and roundup of a couple of indie books that are releasing or have new covers or whatever. In addition, if you don't want to follow that, you can follow me on Blue Sky, Instagram, or Threads are where I'm most active. Adam C. Bassett, and all those places. And I will post there those updates, maybe a little bit more than that sometimes, but the algorithms the way they are, you can't be guaranteed you're going to see any of it. So yeah, all those places. And you can find Copper Skin, Oaken Lungs, and all my other books wide. You can get them on Amazon if you want. You can get them on Kobo. They're on Kobo Plus. There's audiobooks of all of them. There's paperbacks of all of them. I have a store on my website where you can get signed versions if you are in the US. If you're not in the US, DM me and we can figure something out. The shipping will be expensive, but I'm willing to make it work if you're okay with that. So yeah, lots of places, lots of ways to support me. And yeah, reach out. Let me know what you think of the book.
Awesome. Awesome. I really do appreciate Adam. Y'all need to go through and check out Adam's works. They are fantastic. They're so much fun, so engaging. And it's a good time to go through. So Adam, again, thank you so much for
thank you for
joining
having me.
Yes, thank you, my friend. All righty. Until I see everyone in tongue tied. All right, bye. I was going to do my outro thing that I do, but I just completely got tongue tied. So we're just going to end it there.
We don't need an outro. Just bye. See you later. We're done here.